Sir, additional contacts. Boarding craft and lots of them.
They're going to try to take our MAC guns offline. Give their capital ships a straight shot at Earth. Master Chief, defend this station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
Halo 2 had big shoes to fill. Halo Combat Evolved was a momentous game, which drew players into its world by a sharp plot, standout characters, and a world that felt worth exploring. Halo Combat Evolved laid a perfect foundation for stories to come. Funnily enough, though, the great execution of Halo Combat Evolved is also a drawback. When a game works so well, it can be difficult to build upon it. If a sequel zigs when it was supposed to zag, it can quickly betray the original and send that foundation tumbling down. Halo Combat Evolved concluded with plenty of avenues left to explore. The Covenant are our enemies, but we didn't learn a whole lot about them. We saw the UNSC, the United Nations Space Command, but we didn't see much of humanity as a whole. Halo 2's chief responsibility in the story department is to provide answers to these questions, or at least lead towards them. At the same time, Halo 2 is responsible for building upon the stakes of the original game, upping the ante. If Halo 2 stumbled on either goal, well, then it would have been letting down Halo Combat Evolved's foundation. It's fortunate then, that from a storytelling perspective, Halo 2 is an almost perfect continuation of its predecessor. It fleshes out the world greatly, it ups the stakes, and it makes us care more about its central cast. Halo 2 uses every tool at its disposal, from the script to the environmental and level design, to the gameplay to spin its tail. My name is Kelvin Fisher. I'm a science fiction author, primarily of the Northfield series. Join me in this dive into Halo 2 storytelling, and why the game works so well as a sequel. Halo 2 opens on the Covenant's holy city. We meet the Arbiter, who is set before the prophets for judgment on the events of Combat Evolved. The Arbiter explains his point of view of what happened on the Halo ring.
By the time I learned the demon's intent, there was nothing I could do.
This is such a brilliant narrative framing to start with for a handful of reasons. First off, the Arbiter recounting the events of Halo Combat Evolved provides a natural summary of the first game for new players, and a refresher for returning players. In addition, though, the Arbiter's narration provides the Covenant's perspective on the events. So, this summary accomplishes dual purposes of recounting the first game while also fleshing out the Covenant. The Covenant are also further fleshed out in a variety of ways through this cutscene. By visuals alone, we get a clear view of the Covenant's hierarchical structure. The prophets are in charge, while the other Covenant forces are in the stands. One of the brutes laughs when the Arbiter is booed by the crowd. This indicates that the brutes have an animosity towards the Arbiter, or as we'll see, the elites as a whole. Furthermore, the prophets use very religious language when talking about the ring.
Humans were able to evade your ships, land on the sacred ring, and desecrate it with their filthy footsteps.
Even if you haven't played the first game, you get the sense that the Covenant are religiously motivated. Already through this cutscene, we grasp the Covenant's structure and motivations through uses of imagery and subtle dialogue nods. The Arbiter is ultimately condemned for his failure to stop Master Chief from destroying the ring. The brutes are all too eager to usher the Arbiter away. This is more foreshadowing for later in the game. The perspective changes to our principal hero, Master Chief. He's on Cairo station, and he's harangued by the armorer for destroying his first suit.
You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the Covenant.
Fortunately, he's given a more advanced version. This provides a nice narrative explanation for the slight shift in gameplay mechanics from Halo Combat Evolved to Halo 2. In Halo 2, your health fully recharges, while in Halo 1, you had to use health packs to restore the health beneath your shields. In addition, calibrating the suit is a good excuse to run through the tutorial controls again. Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson head to a reward ceremony, where they're given accolades for their actions. Miranda Keyes, the daughter of Captain Keyes, is given honors for her father posthumously.
Your father's actions were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service. His bravery in the face of impossible odds reflects great credit upon himself and the UNSC. The Navy has lost one of its best.
Captain Keyes died on the Halo ring, being subsumed by the flood infection. This cutscene alternates between the reward ceremony and the Arbiter's punishment, where he's stripped of his armor in front of a jeering crowd and branded. This contrast serves to accentuate both the hope that the UNSC feels by Master Chief's victory, as well as the shame the Arbiter feels in his defeat.
Drawn quite a crowd. If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed. Are you sure?
By emphasizing this shame, the player has a better understanding of the Arbiter. The award ceremony is cut short by Cortana, the helpful and ever-sassy AI who accompanied Chief during his time on the Halo ring. The two work as a close-knit team, with Cortana being his guide, source of information, and sometimes protector. She notifies them that a slip space rupture has been detected. The Covenant are here. Humanity is under attack. The Master Chief is given a simple order: protect Cairo's station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
The Master Chief is ready to get armed and take on his enemy. With that, the gameplay of Halo 2 begins in proper. This first gameplay level of Halo 2 is very reminiscent of Combat Evolved's first mission. In the first game, you're on a human vessel, the Pillar of Autumn, fending off a Covenant attack. Halo 2 opens with the Covenant attacking a human station with very similar looking hallways and constructs. This instills a level with an instant sense of familiarity and a connection with the first game. However, Cairo Station is much grander in scope. Out of the windows you see Earth. As the player, this provides you with a sense of immediacy. You understand that you're not just protecting the ship. By protecting the ship, you're protecting the Earth below. This contrasts with the Pillar of Autumn in the first game, which was floating in an unrecognizable region of space. Now, though, the battle is home. The level design of Cairo Station is more intricate as well. On the Pillar of Autumn, Master Chief fought on a flat plain, through straightforward corridors and tunnels. We travel not only through the Cairo Station, but also along the outside of it. One of the highlights is traveling down this massive elevator, seeing the mechanics of the ship move in lumbering motions. Even as the Master Chief, a genetically modified super soldier that stands high above ordinary humans, you feel small amidst this giant construction. This level succeeds in communicating a connection with the first game and using this connection to emphasize the greater scope of the second game. You feel that this is a continuation of the story, but that the stakes are much grander. It's a great example of how familiar environments can be used to create contrast and achieve an effect. The Chief stops a squad of Covenant soldiers in their tracks as they're trying to plant a bomb on the ship.
How much time was left?
You don't want to know.
Chief decides to give back their bomb.
Permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
This cutscene punctuates everything I've said about upping the stakes. The Covenant are willing to go further to annihilate humanity, but humanity is willing to do whatever it takes to stop them. Chief's offensive with the bomb isn't enough to win the battle, however. The fight continues on Earth's surface, particularly the city of New Mombasa. They pick up a Covenant transmission. The attack on Earth was spearheaded by one of the Covenant prophets, Regret. He's on one of the Covenant carriers and he's calling for backup. Chief's mission is clear: secure the Covenant carrier and capture the Prophet of Regret. At this moment, things are looking better for humanity. Chief delivered a big blow. A prophet appears vulnerable, and Johnson is pumping up the troops for battle.
Humanity, we regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
However, very quickly a wrinkle appears. A scarab, a deadly Covenant weapon, shows up, the likes of which we haven't seen. The scarab starts blasting Earth ships out of the sky. Chief must make the rest of the journey on foot. There's very much an ebb and flow to humanity's battle with the Covenant. Each side deals a devastating blow, one after the other, ratcheting up the intensity. Humanity, emphasized by the likes of Sergeant Johnson, Lord Hood, Miranda Keyes, and the Chief, are ready for this battle and willing to fight it out with a bear-down, determined grin until their very last breath. This highlights their resilience in the face of such a monumental threat, and it makes humanity easy to root for. Chief fights his way through the city, facing down Covenant troops. My favorite part of this handful of levels is that it gives us a tour of what we're protecting. In Halo Combat Evolved, we were fighting for humanity, but we were constrained to the Pillar of Autumn and the Halo Ring, which lacks civilian life. The greater whole of humanity was an abstract. In Halo 2, we get our boots on Earth soil. We get to walk around the Earth that we're protecting. We get a glimpse of how humanity lives outside of the Covenant War. The city of New Mombasa is definitely futuristic, but it's not so advanced that it feels alien. It looks like a natural progression of a city you'd see nowadays, with a handful of architectural innovations and a greater population size. This traversal through the city is enhanced by the presence of the Marines at your side. They're as charming and funny as in the first game, and their short stints of dialogue come across as authentic. In general, they come across as in over their heads, doing their best to keep up with the Master Chief, and resolute in their desire to protect home.
See this look? It's terror!
And that's where I think this connection really works. You have the interactions with the Marines, paired with this tour of the city. You have a place you're protecting and a people within to protect. I think this lays a groundwork, which makes the later part of the game when you're off Earth work better because you know what you're protecting at home. When the world is at stake and the Earth is threatened, it's no longer in the abstract. When you think of Earth in Halo 2, you now think of New Mombasa and the humans that live within it. And that frame of reference takes the threat of Earth from the abstract to somewhere more real. During this section, tension is also amplified by the periodic threat of the Scarab. These Earth missions culminate with Chief boarding the Scarab and taking it down. There's a good narrative payoff here, boosted by the aforementioned build-up. It goes down as the most epic feeling segment of gameplay up until this point in the game, as you jump down from the bridge onto the back of the Scarab. The Prophet tries to escape, activating a slip space jump. Miranda Keyes knows a large part of the city will be destroyed by the ensuing jump, and the Covenant will be lost, so she charges forth and enters the breach. An explosion results. This section then ends on a cliffhanger, and we swap to the Arbiter's perspective. This is a tried and true writing technique, leaving a plotline dangling to keep the audience engaged, and it works well here too. The following cutscenes are some of the best in the game. Here, our disgraced elite is bequeathed the title of Arbiter. It's not a title of honor, but a brand of shame. He used to take on dangerous suicide missions at the Prophet's will, until one of these missions eventually kills him. What I think makes this cutscene so engaging is that it does so much work for the game's story and overall lore in such a short period of time. We learn about the duty of the Arbiter and his relation to the Prophets. We get to see, through stellar voice acting, the Arbiter's profound shame. It's clear that his religious beliefs are still intact, and he takes the role of the Arbiter with a humility and a sense of duty. He doesn't even feel worthy of this distinction. Meanwhile, the Prophet's dialogue hints at the Covenant's greater history.
The taming of the Hunters, the Grunt Rebellion. Were it not for the Arbiters, the Covenant would have broken long ago.
Even on my knees, I do not belong in their presence.
The mention of a Grunt Rebellion, for instance, tells us that the Grunts may not be so happy in their current role within the Covenant hierarchy, and that they were likely subject to some level of mistreatment in the past, or even today. The taming of the Hunters indicates that the Hunters were wild animals once, and broken in like horses. These are just some aside lines, but you get the sense that there are greater stories within, and it colors the Prophet's dialogue with a sense of intrigue. You hang on to every word. The Arbiter receives his armor, and he embarks on his first mission. He's to take down a prominent heretic who teaches that the Prophet's words are lies. This mission adds even further depth to the Covenant, showing that they have their own inner strife and turmoils, much like humanity. This all combines to make them far more compelling villains. A cool detail is the Prophets show the heretic on a holo device, but they abruptly stop the heretic recording before he can speak about the Great Journey. As the viewer, you get the sense that the Prophets aren't being fully transparent, but the Arbiter doesn't pick up on it. The Arbiter sets out on his mission along with a squad of Spec Ops elites. Another cutscene plays, which does an excellent job of fleshing out the elites. These are warriors with a great sense of duty and honor for their forebears and children. The Arbiter is told by the Spec Ops commander that his station is far below his men's, and the Arbiter's life doesn't matter to him.
This armor suits you, but it cannot hide that mark. Nothing ever will. You are the Arbiter, the will of the prophets. But these are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not. That makes two of us.
This reinforces the shame that the Arbiter has in society, and it's a shame he bears fully. They land on a Forerunner station where the heretic is located. We take the shoes of the Arbiter. It's a bold design choice, one which firmly plants the Arbiter as the secondary protagonist in the story. He controls nearly the same as the Master Chief, save for his ability to activate a cloak to conceal his position from enemies. This enhances the Spec Ops role that the Arbiter inhabits, especially during this section of the game. Stealth is an option, where it isn't for the Chief most of the time. As the elites make their way further into the facility, they come across the dreaded flood infestation. The flood is a devastating, nigh unstoppable parasite which will consume host after host until nothing is left. In fact, the flood is the reason the Halo rings were created. The rings obliterate all life within their sphere, in effect cutting off the flood's food supply. The Arbiter chases the heretic until he eventually catches up with him. The heretic is convinced that the great journey is the prophets leading them to slaughter. The Arbiter wants to know where the heretic heard these lies. In comes 343 Guilty Spark, a monitor whose goal is to contain the flood, regardless of the cost. The Covenant view the monitor as a sacred oracle. This gives the Arbiter some pause. If the sacred oracle is saying these things, well, that has a bit more weight to it than some random heretic. Still, that doesn't stop the Arbiter from doing his duty. He is given no more time to ponder. The oracle is snagged by Tartarus, and he tells the Arbiter to come with him. Our perspective switches back to the Master Chief and the humans, in their pursuit of regret. They very quickly discover something unsettling. Alright, it's that time in the video for me to push my book series, the Northfield Saga. This is an especially exciting week to push my series, since the third book just released this month. The third novel, Storm Warning, sees Mark Northfield deeply embroiled in a guerrilla war against the Network. His enemy, General Arkland, is determined to destroy Stormrise, and he's willing to use every tool at his disposal. He fights not merely with guns, he also employs psychological warfare. If he drives the populace to apathy, then Stormrise will have no power to overcome him. It's a battle of men, a battle of time, and a battle of wills, to secure the fate of New Medea and to declare a vision for the post-apocalyptic future. The first few weeks of a book's release are important, as Amazon uses them to gauge how much interest there is in a book. It would mean a lot if you could check out the book on Amazon and buy it if you're so inclined. There's a link in the video description to my website and associated links. Or you can just look up the Northfield Saga Storm Warning on Amazon to find it. Alright, back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Master Chief and the UNSC are hot on the heels of the Prophet of Regret, but they very quickly come across something disturbing. There's another Halo ring, a weapon of great destruction, of the same nature that Chief destroyed in Halo 1. The Prophet of Regret is beelining there. What he wants with the ring is a question the UNSC needs answered. Capturing him is even more important. Chief airdrops onto the ringed planet, storming the surface and fighting through Covenant forces. This section of the game is the most reminiscent of Combat Evolved. Again, we're on a mysterious ringed planet fighting the Covenant, unsure of what our enemy is doing here. The environmental design does a great job of instilling a sense of familiarity, while also feeling distinct from the first Halo. While there are the same grand mountains and the same looping ring in the distance, this ring has a much more jungle feel to it, with temple runes. This is good use of environmental storytelling. As the player, you can put some pieces together. Since this ring is an artificial formation, it's likely built by the same forerunners as Halo Combat Evolved. While the architecture on the first ring was mostly futuristic silver-gray metal, the architecture here is largely tanned stones. However, they share the same angular design principles. It showcases the diversity of Forerunner architecture, and by extension a diversity of their culture, while also showing a design consistency. After Chief takes down elite honor guards, Regret reveals his purpose for landing on the Halo ring.
Go back. That's what I thought he said. The Prophet of Regret is planning to activate Halo.
Are you sure?
I shall light this holy ring, release its cleansing flame, and burn a path into the divine beyond.
Pretty much.
It's not a surprise by any measure. He plans on activating the Halo ring to kickstart the Great Journey. The Prophet needs an object, the Index, to activate the Halo ring. Similar to the first Halo, the Index lies within a library. Chief's goal is clear: kill Regret while others go after the Index. While on his way, Cortana sheds more light on the attack on Earth.
I've intercepted a secure transmission from Regret's carrier to something called High Charity. It seems to be a formal apology to the prophets of truth and mercy. Apparently, Regret jumped the gun when he attacked Earth. He's asking the other prophets to forgive his premature arrival, arguing that no human presence was foretold.
Regret attacked with such few forces because he didn't actually expect humans to be inhabiting the planet. This raises more questions, though, than it answers. Why was Regret working off of such bad intel? Questions can wait. Chief reaches Regret and takes him out handily. There's no time for celebration, however. High Charity, the Covenant's megaship, arrives on the scene and attempts to glass Master Chief out of existence. He dives into a great lake, his only refuge. He plunges into the depths. Tentacles emerge from the darkness, and they pull Master Chief down. This is the last we see of the Chief for now, as our perspective returns to the Arbiter. The same narrative technique is employed, ending Chief's section of the story on a cliffhanger. With the Arbiter's defeat of the heretics successful, he returns to the Holy City. Immediately, though, things are amiss. The Brutes approach the Honor Guard and tear off their armor. The Brutes' savagery is apparent, even to their own members, as a Brute helmet whips another for pawing at his staff. After the Prophet of Regret's apparent death, it isn't clear that the elites can safeguard the prophets. They've been demoted, with the Brutes taking their place. This is causing political tension, with the elites threatening to leave the Covenant.
Do you know, Arbiter, the elites have threatened to resign, to quit the High Council, because of this exchange of hats?
The Spec Ops commander withdraws, nodding to the Arbiter. This small gesture alludes to the commander having a higher opinion of the Arbiter now after their mission. This information is all delivered within a minute or so of cutscenes. It speaks again to how dense the cutscenes are in Halo 2, especially with the Covenant. So much about their culture and organization comes through, while also forwarding the plot and the political machinations of the prophets. The Arbiter is given a new mission, one aided by an information 343 Guilty Spark provided. He is to go after the key which can activate Halo, the sacred icon. This swiftly raises the narrative tension through dramatic irony. We as the audience know that the humans are after the very same object, which they call the Index. The Arbiter is on a collision course with humanity, and we as the audience wait with bated breath for its resolution. The Arbiter embarks on his mission. He treks through Forerunner facilities, taking down Sentinels, the Flood, and whoever else tries to stand in his way. Along the way, he sees humans after his same objective. The tension builds. We as the audience know a clash is imminent. Miranda Keyes and Sergeant Johnson reach the library first, and they acquire the key. Quickly, though, they are met by the Arbiter. Our collision is here. This is a difficult engagement for us to watch, as we've bought into all the characters involved. We don't want the Arbiter to die, and neither do we want Keyes or Johnson to fall. The Arbiter emerges victorious, aided by the timely arrival of Tartarus. Things quickly go south for the Arbiter, however. Tartarus snatches the sacred icon, and he declares his intention to put down the elites. The Arbiter thinks he's acting as a rogue agent, but he learns the devastating truth. The very prophets themselves ordered this. Tartarus blasts the Arbiter, and he plunges into the abyss. Here, we hit the narrative low point of the game. Both of our heroes are laid low. The Covenant have the Index, what they need to fire off the ring and cause untold destruction. Chief and the Arbiter are gathered by the Gravemind, the greater intelligence of the Flood.
Now I shall talk. And you shall listen.
The Gravemind and the Chief, although enemies, share a common goal. Neither wants the Halo ring to go off, as it will mean both the death of humanity and the Flood. The Gravemind explains the true nature of the Great Journey to the Arbiter, but the Arbiter doesn't believe him. Yet after the treachery of the Brutes and what he heard from the Heretic, the Arbiter is no longer fully sure. The Gravemind sees this wavering, and he still decides to use the Arbiter for his purposes. He sends Chief to search one likely spot for the Index, while the Arbiter searches another. This coalescence, I think, highlights how well Halo 2's narrative arcs are threaded. The Flood, the Arbiter, and the Chief are enemies, with very different goals. However, their purposes very naturally aligned for them to help one another, without this alliance feeling contrived or forced. On the Arbiter's side, his questioning of the Covenant comes across as very natural. You see his gradual progression from devoted follower to skeptic, one prompted by the betrayal of his kind. Even now, he is not fully convinced, just unsure. The Chief is sent to High Charity. His first order of business is to terrify a grunt as Seer's weapon.
Boo.
This is a good time to mention that I think Chief's character is handled really well in this game. He's given a bit more personality than Halo Combat Evolved, but it isn't overdone. He's still a mostly silent warrior that the player can inhabit easily. However, his humor and tendency towards straightforward action stands out just a little bit more. Chief rescues some Marines and makes his way through High Charity. This level is long, maybe a bit too long, but the length of the level communicates the massive scope of High Charity. The fact that the Covenant have such a massive city within one of their aircraft speaks to their technological capabilities. The Prophets formally displace the Elites as the Covenant's military leaders, replacing them with the Brutes. The betrayal is now complete, and a civil war breaks out between the Elites and the Brutes. Gameplay is used to great effect to demonstrate this conflict. When Chief travels through High Charity, he witnesses the Elites and Brutes fighting one another. Sometimes he doesn't even have to step into battle himself. He can merely watch the two factions go at it and clean up the scraps afterwards.
You might consider sitting this one out.
It's a great synergy between the story and gameplay. The Flood attack, and they take down one of the Prophets, Mercy. Truth, instead of helping him, leaves him to die. It's another showcase of just how ruthless the Prophets are, and highlights the lack of unity between them, despite their shared religious goals. Meanwhile, the Arbiter is on his own hunt. He battles Covenant troops, reinforcing his changing alliances via gameplay. It's an odd feeling, being an elite and fighting official members of the Covenant, not just heretics. The Arbiter meets with the Spec Ops commander and fills him in on the betrayal.
Vile, disloyal beasts. The Prophets were fools to trust them.
Chief reaches the Prophet of Mercy, who's getting munched on by a flood spore. Mercy tells him that the Prophet of Truth is leading a force back to Earth with the intent of destroying it. However, there's still the ring and Tartarus to worry about. Cortana suggests the tried and true method used on the first Halo ring, blowing up the UNSC ship if Tartarus activates the ring, thereby destroying it.
It's not a very original plan, but we know it'll work.
Cortana has to stay behind, though, to activate the ring manually. She doesn't want to risk a remote detonation. Chief agrees to the plan, and he heads off to stop Truth. He faces hordes of Flood and Covenant, who fight amongst themselves as well. There's a chaos to the gameplay, which reflects the increasing narrative tension as well. The Chief boards the Dreadnought via the transport beam, ending our journey in Halo 2 with him.
Chief, when you get to Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with Truth.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
The Arbiter gazes upon the control room with the elite commander. The Gravemind's words run through his mind.
There is still time to stop the key from turning. I must get inside. Then mount up, Arbiter. I know a way to break those doors.
He decides to stop Tartarus from activating the ring. He asks for the commander's help in getting inside, and without hesitation, the commander helps him. It shows how, despite the Arbiter's beginnings, he has won some measure of respect back. The subtlety of character change like this really lends to the characters feeling believable. He battles to the control room, where he finds Tartarus attempting to force keys to activate the ring. The Arbiter confronts Tartarus about the truth of the ring and the Great Journey, but Tartarus refuses to listen.
Take care, Arbiter. What you say is heresy. Is it? Oracle, what is Halo's purpose?
Collectively, the seven.
Not another word.
This is very reflective of the Arbiter's discussion with the heretic, but he is now in the position of the heretic. It's a good demonstration of his character arc by bringing it full circle. The Arbiter battles against Tartarus. From a gameplay perspective, this final battle isn't exactly amazing, but there's one story connection I'd like to point out. In order to damage Tartarus, the Arbiter has to wait for his shields to be struck down by Johnson. Johnson lies outside of the arena with a beam rifle. So the Arbiter has to work together with Johnson to take down Tartarus, which binds the narrative team up with a gameplay mechanic, binding the player closer to the narrative purpose. It's another good use of gameplay synergy. Once Tartarus is down, Miranda Keyes snags the index, shutting down Halo and preventing activation. They quickly learn from the monitor that there are more Halos, and that they've all been primed for remote activation. They can be activated from somewhere called the Ark.
And where, Oracle, is that?
Meanwhile, Master Chief emerges near Earth's orbit along with the Dreadnought. He contacts Lord Hood and tells him he's going to finish the fight. Finally, we see Cortana, still in the flood-infected High Charity. Gravemind approaches, wanting answers. She tells him to ask away. And so, Halo 2 ends on a cliffhanger. Well, multiple cliffhangers. There are Halo rings abound, truth is bearing down on Earth, and Cortana is in the Gravemind's clutches. The only arc that sees a real conclusion is the Arbiter's character arc, along with Tartarus' threat as a villain. When Halo 2 released, this abrupt ending was a huge controversy, and it's easy to see why. There are a lot of risks when ending a game on such blatant cliffhangers. First, if a third entry is never greenlit, the series is left in perpetuity with an unsatisfying ending. That's the biggest and maybe the most damaging risk. The second risk is that it makes Halo 2 highly contingent on the subsequent installment. If Halo 3 releases a bad egg, and all those narrative arcs resolved unsatisfyingly, it would in turn reflect on Halo 2 poorly. Fortunately nowadays, we have the advantage of seeing this game with a broader lens. We know Halo 3 did in fact come out, and it was received largely favorably, but I'm not going to go into Halo 3 in this video. But safe to say, I think Halo 2 holds up better for it. With Halo 3 able to be played readily after completing 2, an intermittent chapter in the saga feels fine. So I have no qualms about this cliffhanger ending now. Halo 2 in general is an interesting story to talk about. When examined from a 10,000 foot view, it retreads a lot of the same ground as Halo 1. We're in a chase with the Covenant, battling over control of a similar Halo ring. We're after the same index and the same control room. Cortana even offers the same solution at the end of the game. You'd think this sets Halo 2 up for being derivative. What's interesting though is that Halo 2 doesn't come across as feeling derivative at all. It feels like an authentic evolution of Halo 1 storytelling, a building upon the foundation Halo Combat Evolved laid. The reason lies in the details. Halo 2 has a acute focus on world building, and it uses every opportunity to build upon this world. The cutscenes are densely packed, delivering mounds and mounds of interesting exposition in ways that feel natural, while also furthering the plot. The characters are given more attention, especially on the Covenant side of things. The Arbiter is a compelling character who undergoes a character arc that feels natural. Gameplay through environmental design and combat encounters accentuate the story, enhancing the world building in a very tactile way. The resiliency of the humans, exemplified by Keyes, Johnson, and Chief, make them easy to root for. In fewer words, Halo 2 synergizes all of its elements into storytelling, and it's why Halo 2 stands tall amongst the rest of the series. All that awaits now is to see how this story ends. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking, subscribing, or checking out my Northfield series, especially with the latest book, Storm Warning. Until next time.